What am I supposed to do? Just like quit because I'm not happy? I don't have the luxury of that. I'm not a trust fund baby because life is so busy out here. We make all of these compromises. And then all of a sudden now this job you hated, it's like 5 years later and you're like, oh yeah, no, I still hate my job. In fact, I hate it more now than I ever have.
And we didn't know who we were when we were younger. We made some of these original decisions and maybe we need to reset something. Well, we have an opportunity to know ourselves better now through personality types, which domains we're more comfortable with, we'll ignore and be deeply uncertain about. We have the map and we can match it to the domains of life. And I think this can help navigate tons of transitions. Hey, welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. I'm Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
So I was reflecting this weekend, Antonia. We just got back from my niece's wedding. Mm-hmm. Big wedding, probably 100 and 200 people there?
Yeah, she's just a little shy of 200 people. It was huge.
It was outdoors, beautiful, beautiful weather on this like 140 acre camp ranch facility with the views of the distant mountains and things. It was really a nice
It was lovely.
Situation. You and I, it was our family, so we pitched in and helped and were part of the wedding party on the, the edges of his aunt and uncle and stuff like that. But you and I were in some discussion around transitions because getting married is a big transition of life. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about, there's these moments that are automatic transitions for us. We, go to school. The first day of school is a big transition for a lot of people when they're little kids. They graduate high school, they get their driver's license, maybe go on a first date, get married, graduate college, get a first job. Like we have all these like template markers in society and whatever culture or people group you come from, no matter where in the world, you're going to have a version of kind of these assumed benchmark transitions that you're going to have. I was just watching something last night. It was like a Rick Steves travel thing. It was about Turkey.
Rick Steves is still doing travel videos?
Oh yeah. I was watching with my dad last night before I came back from the wedding stuff.
That all by itself shocks me.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. Rick Steves has been doing them since for over 20 years now, hey?
Oh,
30 years maybe?
So he's still doing these.
Okay, that's okay. Good job, Rick Steves. Go Rick Steves.
Why did I mention that?
We're talking about transitions, and you were going to mention you watched something about Turkey.
Oh, Turkey. Thank you. Yes, that was it. There was a boy like on his 12th or 13th birthday going for this ceremonial circumcision experience. I think it was Turkey.
Oof. Yeah.
So like all the family gets together and celebrate. I'm like, ugh. Not my culture, but that's like, it was a big celebratory transition moment for this young boy at the age of 12 or 13. He looked like he was okay. Gonna go see the doctor, but they're doing all this extra stuff before he goes in. Uh-huh. So the point is that it doesn't matter what culture you come from, we have transitions built in. But life is more than just the transitions that have been built in. We often run to the end of those. Like I'm thinking about my niece who just got married. Maybe the next one would be a new child, would be the next transition in life. But after that, until elderhood or some other big moment for their kids, they kind of have this wide open field. Like all the major transitions that have been prescripted or pre-designated for us as culture are kind of over. Even like the over-the-hill 40-year-old mark used to be a transition people had. I don't think they do that as much. The boomer culture was like the last to do that. Our generation didn't really do that as much.
Right.
It was like over-the-hill party. Remember that? It was a big transition moment.
Yes, I remember over-the-hill parties.
Back in the 80s and 90s, it was like this big deal when somebody turned 40. Oh, you're on the second back half of your life or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were thinking about these transitions and we realized as we were talking that many of the things that we help people with here at Personality Hacker end up being about transitions. Mm-hmm. They end up being about whatever it is in life that you're moving from one stage to the next. And we know all the obvious ones, like if you're trying to find a partner, you might look at personality types for that because you're transitioning into a new partnership. So who you pair with that's good for you,
right? Or
a new career, like all the obvious ones we talk about. There's a lot of non-obvious ones too.
Yes. And there's another transition that your brother and sister-in-law are going through, which is that it also happens to be the same time that their younger daughter is going to college. So not only do they have one daughter getting married, but the other daughter is now heading off to college. And so their family has shrunk by quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so now it's like they went from, because their older daughter was still living at home after she got back from college. And so they went from like 3 kids now to just 1 because their youngest is a little older than Piper. And so that's a major transition for them. And after the big ceremonies are over and after the big, like they're right now moving her down, to her college. She's going to college in Florida. So they're moving her down. And like once the dust settles, once all the activity of the transition is over, there's going to be sort of a quietness afterwards. and a simplification of their life in some ways. And that can be a transition too, not just the addition of something that makes your life more complicated, but sometimes transitions make your life less complicated.
Yeah.
And sometimes the quietness of that, I call it empty nest syndrome. And so it's like, okay, now what do I do with all this time I've been used to? Like I didn't have any discretionary time before because I was just running from, trying to take care of my kids. And now all of a sudden, like, they're sort of settled in their own lives and they're off being adults. And now I don't have now I have to get used to all this time. And I think what you're talking about with all these transition moments that are almost like they're almost biological, right? Like a bunch of transitions are written into us almost as like humans. We carry scripts inside of us, right? We carry genetic code. And we carry pre-wiring, and we carry societal expectations that get written in early. So some of it is just things that we're going to do if we can get, if we can. We have a sort of a biological imperative to create more of ourselves. So if we can have children, we oftentimes do. We have a desire to pair bond. And so if we can do that, we oftentimes do. And each one of those transitions is complicated. But they're usually also fun and enjoyable and feel natural. The transitions you're talking about, sort of the more discrete ones, can take us by surprise. And we go through a lot of transitions in life that don't always feel as sort of biologically pushed. They're
or celebrated with others.
They're not celebrated, right? Exactly.
That's the thing about a wedding or a funeral is you have other people that are with you in it.
Community support.
But sometimes you have a transition you go through and it's deeply lonely, because you're the only one experiencing what you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, death is one of those. Often we die alone. Now, someday you might surrounded by people, but often that final passage is on your own.
Right. Well, although we don't know where that transitions to.
Correct.
Right. We know there's a transition. We know what's on this side of it, but we don't know what's on the other side.
But we just know you have to do it alone.
Right.
That's the only thing we do know is no one dies. Like you can't die with somebody. I mean, you can die next to somebody, but you die alone.
Correct. Yeah. But I think in a less dramatic way, we have transitions that we have to
make this dark.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's one of them that's very personal and deeply solo.
Correct. Yeah. And it's the ultimate. Right. The ultimate transition is death.
Yeah.
And we don't know, we don't definitively know what's on the other side of the transition. We don't know which we transition to. But there's a lot of them in life that are smaller, don't have that sense of community support like you're talking about, may feel just as unsettling, and doesn't necessarily feel biological.
Like what?
Well, like moving a house. Moving houses is a transition, right? You're moving from, and
it's bigger than probably people register it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, big time.
Your habitat is very important for you, and your personality, quite frankly.
We do a lot of merging with our home, right? It's not just a house; it's a home, right? We create that distinction, and home gets it's like the place where we take off our social face, and so it's a place where we imprint respite. We imprint, sort of the ability to relax. And so when we change that and we go to a new environment, we have to reestablish that anchoring all over again. And we bring our possessions with us to make the transition a little easier, because as long as we're surrounded by the same possessions, oftentimes we feel like, well, we're going to be okay, right? We take portions of our previous home with us. But that transition is something, you might have people who help you move, but the transition itself, whether it's you by yourself or your family going through it, it's like you have to kind of do it you have to do it alone. You have to get used to this new place and recreate a feeling of home. Transitions in careers can be similar, right? It's not there's no biological imperative to transition your career, but there might be sort of a psychological or even a spiritual imperative to do it. And so there we do have all these moments of transition. Now, your first career that you choose, that might have been something that was decided before you knew yourself. And I think the key around this concept of transition, because I think we've talked about it many times in the podcast before, probably because, that whole idea of your mess is your message. My mess was a transition, a huge, big, bloody battle transition that basically burnt down one life and had to reestablish an entirely new life.
Yeah.
all different people, all different places, all different choices, like everything, like completely different paradigm. And so going through this massive, not just a small transition, but like burn your life to the ground and be a phoenix rising from the ashes level of transition was the thing that I had to get through. And so I tend to think about it a lot and wonder if I can help other people go through transition, particularly since the reason why I had to do that is because my previous life was a plan and a path was created for me, and it was rolled out in front of me long before I understood who I was and what was important to my soul.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I had to go through such a massive burn down my life and then find a new path is because the previous one was not created for me, and it had, because of that, the path ran out.
Yes.
Right? Like there was like a very definitive concrete wall that I ran into. And so when I realized that a transition was absolutely necessary, that there was just really this path ended. There was nothing further. I guess I could push against that concrete wall. I could like just keep trying to push against it, but I knew that was just going to be like perpetual suffering and pain. And I hadn't made transitions because I knew that there would be a lot of suffering and pain in the transition as well. So it was like, do I want the pain of having a glass ceiling for the rest of my life, or do I want the pain of just going ahead and shattering it and then getting all the bruises and cuts and then starting over again?
Yeah.
And I chose the latter. But now I was in a position of going like, well, that previous path, that previous plan was rolled out for me like a red carpet from everybody in my life. Like they're the ones who had suggested it. I was following a template. And I knew that when I went through a transition this next time, I didn't want to make a lateral move. I didn't want to just arbitrarily choose another path that may or may not have been right for me. And so I had to go through the arduous duty of figuring out who I was and almost allowing myself to be sort of in stasis for a little while.
Yeah.
So that when I chose another path, it wasn't going to end up with another wall in front of me, and I wouldn't have to do it yet another time.
Hardest transition you've ever done? Ever in your life, do you think? Would you say?
Oh, not even a question.
Yeah. So right now, as you're listening or watching, I'd like to hear from you in the comments below this video or on the post that you're watching this or listening to this on. Tell us about your most difficult transition. Antonia just expressed hers, having to leave your religious paradigm, basically, when everything ran out. We want to hear from you in the comments. Again, let us know what is the biggest challenging, maybe not the biggest, it's not the biggest, like the biggest shift in your life, like getting married or a death of the family or something, but the most challenging. Even small transitions can be the most challenging. So what's the most challenging transition you've experienced in life so far?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that. We'd love to see this kind of a discussion thread started.
So the reason why that was the hardest transition is because it was everything.
Yeah, it's the structure of your mind.
Yeah, not only was it my religion, my paradigm, so it was the structure of my mind, but I also left my marriage, and I left my career, my job at the time, and I left I moved states.
You left
I
your
left
home.
my home, right? Like
you left your family stopped talking to you?
My family stopped talking to me because I left the religion.
You lost your friend group?
I lost all my friends and family. Like it really was a mushroom cloud on my life. So it was the hardest transition because it was total. It was a total transition.
Almost no one listening or watching is going to have that severe of an experience.
Most people won't.
I mean, that is the most hard break that I've ever heard, or I've ever known somebody that had to make a break like this.
Right.
There's maybe a couple people I've talked to that I don't know as well as you that have had to do that big of a break, but you're the person I have the closest relationship to that's ever had to do something like this.
I know younger people, like teenagers and late teens, early 20s, that have had to do something kind of similar, especially if they had a falling out with their parents, and they had to do like a total break. But that was sort of at the early part of their life, so they would have had to have created a life anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I know younger people who have had to do it. Not to say that makes it any less difficult. I mean, when you're starting out as, a young adult, having all the support of your parents and a community behind you is a make or break, right? Like that's a pretty important thing. So I don't want to diminish the experience of that. But I think what makes my situation a little different even from that one is that I was like sort of midpoint of an adult.
Yes.
Right. I was already established. I had been married for 12 years. I had been, I was a homeowner. I was in a career. I was, you know what I mean? Like I had already established a lot of things. And then most of the time, even like when somebody goes through a divorce, that can be really destabilizing, but they don't usually like sort of level everything at the same time.
Yes.
But some people do. And actually, I know that some people do because those people listen to our podcast. Yeah. I know podcast listeners that somebody have told, there have been people who have told me, they're like, yeah, no, I just went back to ground zero and started over.
So you're an extreme example. And I just want somebody that's listening or watching right now not to tune us out because you're like, well, that's not my experience. That's so extreme. I'll never face that. So you have nothing to offer me.
Right.
I would say, no, you actually have a lot to offer because you went through the most extreme version of it. You survived it, not only survived it, but are thriving. Mm-hmm. And so you listening or watching, any transition you face in your future is probably not every single aspect of your life collapsing like Antonia's. Mm-hmm. And in a way, a lot of mine did too. Yeah. I mean, I don't have the exact same story you do, but I still have my immediate family and a few other key things, some friends and stuff, but I lost a lot too when I did some transitions.
Yeah.
Like I lost access to my children and it was a really difficult situation. Like I had another story going on that was tough for me.
Yeah.
But the transition that's facing you into the future is not going to be as severe as what Antonia and I had to go through. And the reason why I'm saying that is to say you can learn from an experience like ours to bring to things that aren't as extreme, even though they still feel awful, no matter how. If something's not as extreme as your story, it's still going to feel awful to transition. Like we don't like transitions as humans, especially if here's the thing I was going to add is I think the tough part of all of this is the uncertainty that you face in the midst of it all.
Yes.
That's really the challenge we're under.
Yes.
It's not like doing something new. It's uncertainty. Is this the right thing to be doing? I mean, I have a lot of life left or half my life's gone or a third of it or something. So I think that's a big factor here.
Yes. That most of the time that we're going through a big transition in our life, it's because we've discovered something was off or wrong. Sometimes it happens to us, like you said, a death in the family, or sometimes like just circumstantially it happens. Like if in an economic downturn and you get laid off, now you're in a transition and you didn't choose that. So there are times when we have to go through transitions that are sort of foisted upon us. But a lot of times when we go through a transition, we realize it's because it's not right for us.
Yeah.
Now we have a choice to make. And I think the reason why I would say that you and I actually have a lot to offer anyone who is potentially in the middle of one of those situations is because, like you said, we're proof you can get to the other side. And that is a big challenge. I think there are a lot of people who are like ready for a transition, but as you mentioned, the uncertainty of it holds them back. And so they just sort of sit and churn because they're terrified to take that step. They're terrified to do the transition. And I think the word uncertainty is really important here because the more I think about the concept of uncertainty, the more I think about our reactions as humans to uncertainty. We absolutely loathe it. We hate uncertainty. Yeah. We hate the feeling. We'll do almost anything to mitigate feeling uncertain.
Oh, yeah.
Beg, borrow, steal. We'll do whatever it takes. And transitions put us, but they don't have to put us in a place of uncertainty. They always put us in a place of the unknown. And we have a tendency to conflate those two things. We automatically assume that the unknown is uncertain. But I think you and I, as two ENP types, having extroverted intuition or exploration as our dominant or driver cognitive function, helps us understand that there's a distinction between unknown and uncertain. Extroverted intuition is, especially the extroverted version of it. I think intuition all by itself is like a deep interest in the unknown. I think that's really fundamentally what it comes down to. Like, I want to know what can't be known. I want to know the things I have to use my instincts for, or my intuition, or my patterning, or my, like I have to sort of figure it out with the clues. So intuition all by itself is like a fascination with the unknown. And the extroverted version means that we have a fascination with the unknown as it unfolds in front of us in real time, right? Like as life goes. So we know that unknown doesn't mean uncertain because we don't feel uncertainty around our first function. But in a time period of massive transition like we're talking about, it doesn't just pull on the unknown, it also pulls on a bunch of other stuff about us. We have to, like I mentioned before, in order to not make a lateral move, now you have to dive into things about yourself that allowed you to build the wrong life in the first place.
Yes.
Or to make decisions that weren't right for you. So now you have to dive into who you are, what you really believe, what are your values,
Yes.
what's your identity, and then how are you going to build a life that aligns with all of those things.
Yeah.
And even a person who is comfortable with the unknown isn't necessarily comfortable with all of that deep personal work that has to be done in order to make sure that this next path that you're taking is not going to run into its own concrete wall.
Yes. So this uncertainty is very challenging when you want to make a change or a transition in life. I think the other challenge, I mean, you mentioned this idea of we make maybe a career choice before we knew ourselves. You know, young, maybe 22, I get a job out of college. Now I'm like, I didn't really want to do this. This isn't me.
Why did I choose the law?
Well, we do the same thing.
Why did I choose medicine?
We do the same thing with partnerships too.
Yeah.
We may marry or get together with somebody in this very similar way in early days. So I think the other reason why people avoid transitions, and we've seen this with people, I used to complain about this. We used to get clients or students come into maybe our profiler training and they'd be there about 18 months to 2 years and then they would bounce and go somewhere else. Like, I thought we had good programs. I thought people really liked what we're doing. Or PLP, personality life path. They'll do a few little coaching things and they'll bounce out of there and go live a better life. And I guess it speaks to the quality of the programs that we produce, but also it's a transition moment for a lot of people. When they come into a program or work with us, it's not sustainable by definition. Like we can't do our personality life path every day, every week. It's designed to be an 8-week program with high octane. Like it's off the charts, super focused on every aspect of your life with a 3-day event, both virtual and online, virtual and in person. That's structured not to be sustainable on purpose.
Yeah.
You couldn't be sustainable with that kind of transition or change.
It's a peak moment.
Exactly. I think that's also why we avoid transitions. We know how much resource energy they're going to take and how much peak moment it has to be. And sometimes, so it's already uncertain. And now we're like, it's going to take a lot for me to make this transition.
Right.
Maybe I'll just live with what I've got going on now.
Yeah.
And I'll just stay kind of low grade with it.
Yeah.
But the dirty secret is that's not sustainable either.
Right.
That's going to run its course eventually. It's just, do you want a shorter term change or do you want it to be really long and painful and difficult? Because transitions will be forced upon you.
Right.
Whether you take, proactive actions or not. So I think that's another reason why people are a little bit like, transitions are tough, uncertainty. Then there's the unsustainability, like moving a house. It's not sustainable to move a house. You don't do it every week unless you're a professional mover, because it's a nightmare. You got to pack up it's really hard to make that transition.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for how much work and time and effort a transition forces out of us.
Unless you have help.
Just
like moving a house.
Correct.
I've done it by myself and I've had help.
Yep.
And with help, it's not that bad.
Right.
It honestly isn't.
Yeah.
And I think personal transitions are the same thing.
Correct. Yeah. I think the key though is recognizing that I think a long time ago we did a podcast where we talked about transitions as being I think we've done this topic multiple times in the past, making scary transitions in your life. And I think we talked about how it's like a sort of swinging through the jungle from vine to vine, hoping that the next vine will be there for you.
Yep.
And so it takes a lot of faith and trust, but it takes less faith and trust when we're already in motion than it does when we're just sort of hanging on a vine. And I think that's what you're discussing, this idea of the devil, and needing to make a transition, but I just decide I'm not going to. It just means that you've stopped swinging and you're just going to hang on a vine now. And the amount of energy it takes to start swinging again, right? To get yourself back into motion to begin with, in order to be able to grab the next vine. It's just sometimes it feels like it's easier to just hang, but now you're just hanging there in perpetuity, and that also takes its own energy to just hang in the wrong circumstance or situation.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate how.
By the way, before you say the next thing, hold on to that. I just want to hear, if you're watching or listening, I would like you to put in the comments, what transition are you avoiding right now? What do you know you need to transition to? Whether it's career, a relationship, a new situation, maybe a different way that you see yourself. Again, by knowing yourself, by the way, transitions are a lot easier. That's why we talk about personality hacker or personality type so much here at Personality Hacker. But just in the comments, let us know what transition is facing you right now. What are you afraid of? What are you fearing? What is challenging? What are you avoiding? What do you, I know I need to make this transition, but I just can't seem to find the strength. Okay, now say what you're going to say. I wanted to hear from people though.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we don't, the reason why that's just as dangerous though, is not only does it take a lot of energy to hang on, like more energy to just hang on a vine than it does to swing from vine to vine, to be in motion in your life and to, take risks and embrace change and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I think the other thing is we can tell if we're, well, I don't know if we can always tell, but there's a moment when we get desperate. And if our inner wisdom has been telling us that we need to make a change, like a substantial change in our life, not enforced upon us, but one that we needed to choose.
Yeah.
And we don't. It's almost like we run out of endurance, I don't know, karma or something. We like run out of endurance, mana. I'm using that as like a video game analogy, but like we only have so much, there's like a mana bar when you're playing video games.
Yeah.
That's your magic points, and there's a shield bar, and then there's like a life force bar and all of that stuff. And over time, it just sort of gets more and more and more depleted if you're not in the right situation. And so pretty soon you run out, and then you make a wild choice, right? Like it's like there needed to, you can see this in relationships. It happens a lot in a marriage where there were changes that needed to be made in order for people to maintain their sense of intimacy and their sense of like being a team together.
Yeah. In
this thing together. And like there are changes that have to be made in behalf of the relationship itself. Because if you hope that first 2 years of oxytocin will get you through the next 50, right? It's like, that's not going to be enough. That's going to run out. That's why you get the cellular itch and all that stuff. It's like all of those happy chemicals like sort of have a shelf life. And so then your relationship, in order to have it be sustainable, has to go through its own series of transitions. It has to go through its series of how are we going to act differently at the 5 or 10 year mark than we did at the 2 year mark? And how are we going to act differently at the 15 or 20 year mark than we did at the 10? Like we're changing and growing as people, and we're evolving, and our circumstances are evolving. Maybe you had children, and then that time period of like when they were little kids, your relationship as a team is different when they're little kids than when you're teenagers, right? Mm-hmm. When your kids are teenagers, like now you have to be united front on permission and how you're going to encourage them to develop as humans, to become adults. And like, it's a different conversation than did you grab the binky, right? And did you grab enough wipes or whatever? That's the conversation you have when they're really little. And so how you are a team changes and evolves, as life continues. And then when your children leave the nest, now it's a different conversation, it's a different relationship. So you have to go through all these transitions. And if you allow your relationship to become stagnant because you just don't want to have you don't want to have them, or you're waiting for your partner to bring it up, your spouse to bring it up or whatever. Pretty soon, that's why you start looking at the other person going like, would I be just happier alone? Or can I do better or whatever? Like those intrusive thoughts that make you start to erode your relationship. So if you don't make transitions, thinking that you can just hanging on that vine forever and it's going to be okay, pretty soon you get to a place where now you'll just take anything.
Well, that story to me sounds more like you are making transitions, but you're not updating the software for yourself as you go along. Like you truly are interfacing with your partner differently, but there was never a conversation about it, or not formal, that's the wrong word, but you're not aware that you're changing things. You let them happen, but it was never agreed upon. There was no communication toward that end for some couples, I think.
Well,
I don't want to get too much on the couple side because I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this.
No, I don't either. I'm talking about the third entity.
Sure.
Right? Like you in a relationship, it's your partner, and then it's like the relationship itself creates a third entity.
Of course.
And I'm talking about the entity not updating, the entity not going through the transitions that each individual person does.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because there are some transitions or some changes that we make in our life that are actually not advisable because we didn't update or make transitions earlier that we needed to. And I think relationships are the easiest one to notice, right? That's the easiest one, which is that we needed to be updating our relationship the entire time and we didn't. We needed to be making conscious transitions this entire time and we didn't. And eventually now it buckles under the weight of not having changed. Does that make sense?
I guess the only usually it's in the context less of partnering to like raise children, because if you're both adapting to the child, you have been talking and transitioning together. I think just I'm not squabbling with what you're saying, but I think it comes out more in relationships around things like not getting your needs met by your partner in a certain way, and you've never talked about it, and now 3 or 4 or 5 years have gone by.
Correct.
And now you end up inadvertently cheating on them because you didn't ask for things that you needed in the relationship.
Right.
Certain emotional or whatever needs, or even physical or relational needs.
Correct.
So I think that's where it usually, if you're partnering in life in a lot of these, you've kind of figured out how to update that as you go. But often partners like one partner takes care of the kids, one goes to work. You've siloed your responsibilities. That's where you start to diverge, and you have like this transition moment later on. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing I was just trying to track why you use the example of working together, raising kids, because that seems like that's the only one that I could see that does work out because you're transitioning as you go. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think what I was trying to use it as an example of is getting caught up in life.
Sure.
Getting caught up in life and making assumptions about how it all works.
One partner's breadwinner, one partner's staying home with the kids a lot, and now you're just assuming like you're not really communicating, but you're kind of living life. 10 years goes by, and all of a sudden you don't really know who the other person is or something. Yeah,
I mean, I guess it could be in any iteration.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be just one person's a breadwinner and one person stay at home, but it's like, I think I was using all of those transitions in life around children to express how much life can change on you. And if you're not updating your relationship, if you're not making transitions within the relationship in the same way that you are making them without on the outside, right?
Yes.
Like in the interaction of life. And all of these changes happen to you. Like you chose to have a child, and the moment you decided to have a child, from that moment for like the next 20 years, there's a bunch of enforced transitions that are happening to you over and over and over. And if you're not keeping, like if you pretend that you can just hang in the same kind of relationship through all of these transitions, pretty soon at the end of all of them, you're going to look at the person and be like, I'm not happy with you. Yeah. Because you didn't update. You didn't keep up with all of the changes. Like in the relationship, you got so focused on all of the changes out here, you forgot to make the changes internally, and you forgot to make the changes reinforce the relationship. And that's the easiest one to point to as humans. But there's an iteration or a version of that happens in careers too.
Yes.
And there's an iteration and version of that happens in where you live. Yeah. Right? Or just being a part of the timeline of history. That things change and change and change. And you're just like so focused on what's going on out here. It's like, I'm in a job I hate and I'm miserable. And I just like, I loathe going in every day. But it's like, well, but I got to pay the bills. Yeah. So what am I supposed to do? Just like quit because I'm not happy? I don't have the luxury of that. I'm not a trust fund baby. I'm not like, I don't get to just leave and everything will be fine until I find the thing that it like lights me up. And what if I leave this and the next one is just as bad or worse? Like, shouldn't you stay with the devil, And what if I have a 401k, or what if I have like, I don't know, like health insurance, and I need to stay here because my health isn't great. And so this is the best health insurance I can find. Like, we make all of these, like, because life is so busy out here, we make all of these compromises, and it just, and it can erode at us a little over time. Yeah. And then all of a sudden now this job you hated, it's like 5 years later, and you're like, oh yeah, no, I still hate my job. In fact, I hate it more now than I ever have. But we think we can just hang, right? Because life is busy, and we just infuse ourselves in the busyness of life. And then all of a sudden, just one day, you're like, I literally cannot come in one more day. I literally cannot do this. And so you quit, and then now you're in the suds again, right? Like now you're in that terrible situation. Yeah. And so transitions can, like, they're happening to us because the outside world is forcing them upon us, right? Just because life changes, and it always does, right? It doesn't matter who you are or where you're at. Your life is going through constant and perpetual metamorphosis. So changes happen to us. Like and sometimes those changes force transitions. Like my house was in a natural disaster and now I have to move to another part of the country, or because I lost my job, or because I have the death of a spouse, or like I'm going through a divorce, or my child is leaving the house, or my children are leaving the house, or whatever. Like whatever is the transition out here. And then there are the transitions that come from within, which is I can't handle this one more day. Like I'm a cut 999,000 or what I guess you could say cut 999. And if I get one more, I bleed out.
Yeah.
So I just can't do this anymore. And so now I'm just going to bounce. And those are the transitions that are the ones that like the pressure from within forces us to do them.
Yeah.
And I think what we're talking about is we're talking about a person who is going through a transition either because the world is forcing it upon them, the outer world, or because they're starting to like acknowledge what cut number they're at.
Yes.
Right? Like I'm at 990. I got 10 more in me. Right?
It's kind of that idea of living lives of quiet desperation. This idea that many of us humans, as Desmond Morris wrote The Human Zoo, and it's almost like we all lock ourselves in our cages at night in our homes, and we keep our lives very small, and we live like animals in a zoo, basically. And of course, we're going to fear big transitions. Of course, it's going to get like we limit a lot, but there's a lot more potential to life if we're willing to do things. So I think our take on this then is this uncertainty that you faced for transitions. We all have to face them. We didn't know who we were when we were younger. We made some of these original decisions, and maybe we need to reset something. Well, we have an opportunity to know ourselves better now through personality types. There's a map. We know there's 8 domains of life, right? We have 2 sensing domains, 2 intuitive domains, 2 thinking domains, and 2 feeling domains. We know all 8 domains of life. We know this. We have a map, and we know based on our personality type which domains we're more attuned, we're more comfortable with, and we're going to pay more attention to. Which ones we will ignore, not want to look at, and be deeply uncertain about. Which ones are in our shadow. We'll pull our chain from the shadow, and we don't even know it's happening. Which ones we're hyper-focused on to show the world we're really good at. Like, oh, look, I'm really good at this, even if we're not. Like, we have the map. We just have to know the person's personality type. The 4 letters, the entire map is there, and we can match it to the domains of life. And I think this can help navigate tons of transitions.
Yes. Well, it'll show the transitions that we don't fear to make because they don't feel as uncertain to us.
Yeah.
And the transitions that it's like, you'll pry it out of my cold, dead hands. And so then that transition will be forced upon you at some point in the future, and it's going to get even worse. So the reason why I created those 2 distinctions of the external and the internal, like external pressure and internal pressure, is that when we go through a transition period, we have, even though it doesn't feel like we have any excess in any way, they're hard, they're expensive, they're resource hogs. They are also disruptors that force us to take a minute to take an assessment almost. Yeah. It's like, okay, so I'm forced to change. So now I have an opportunity to change for the better, right? What is the phrase? You don't solve problems, you just trade them. Okay, well, what if I could trade up? Right? What if I have an opportunity now where I can trade my problems up and I can have higher quality problems than the ones I've been dealing with? And so if it's happening in the external world, sometimes that just rocks you and just happens to you, and then you have to go fast. You have to respond quickly to it. But a lot of times, even the external pressure ones are ones where we can have a minute to think about how I'm going to be doing this thing. Like, where am I going next? What am I going to be doing next? And the internal pressure one oftentimes gives us a lot more lead time as long as we're attuned. And that means that we have to, to your point, know ourselves well enough to understand whether or not I'm can kicking, right? Am I kicking this into the future? Am I telling myself that I don't have to do this transition, but actually it's inevitable and I just don't want to deal with it now? Is this not a transition that has to happen in this way? Like, am I desperate? Am I making a choice out of desperation because I allowed it to go on for too long and now I just have to get out, right? And is this an opportunity for a reset that if I'm at the end of a road that maybe I didn't 100%, I wasn't like 100% part of the design of that road.
Yeah.
I was doing it based on the best advice of the people around me because I was quite young when I started on this path. And most of us, when we go through transitions, particularly in midlife, that's what's happening. What's happening is that the road we chose, which was, there was a lot of outsourcing to the people in our lives that seemed to have the wisdom, right? Older people who were giving us their best advice. And so we did the thing that they told us we needed to do. I think the number one example of this is going to college.
Yeah.
Like the overwhelming majority of people in our generation and in the generations behind us
in the West
went to college, right? And that was the best advice that anybody could give them. And for a lot of people, that was actually not the best advice. That was not the advice they should have taken. It put them horrifically in debt. It did not give them job opportunities like they thought. They didn't get a job in their industry. So they're like, why did I even bother, why did I spend my time learning that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, going to a trade school would have been like infinitely better for them, but they didn't. They went to a 4-year college that didn't really teach them a lot of practical skills.
But they're hooked on the subscription model of paying off that loan.
And that's right. And they spend the next
and paying taxes
2 to 3 decades
on all this. They have to keep earning, and they're indentured servants, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, exactly. And so so they made these choices based on the best advice given to them at the time.
Yeah. But
then it ended up not being the best advice for them. And now they have an opportunity to reevaluate and rethink. And that's, I think actually this is where personality type doesn't just become helpful. I think it becomes a lifeline. It becomes such it's a way of rapidly understanding yourself. Like to a way where it takes 10 years of self-understanding, self-knowledge, and self-awareness, and like shoves it into 6 months to a year.
I like to say it's a way to map yourself, because you just see the map so clearly. I mean, understand is one thing. I think you can map yourself even faster than understanding that map. Right.
Well, but I mean, they go hand in hand, right?
Sure.
Just like if you want to
start the process of understanding, yes.
Yeah, if you want to understand the terrain of something, you map it first.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so it's a way of mapping yourself, and that means it's not a simple system, right? The system is kind of complex, but that's because what it's trying to teach you is trying to compress decades of self-understanding, self-awareness, and self-mapping. It's trying to compress it in a very short amount of time.
Well, it's also trying to represent all 8 domains of reality inside of your personality and where you're attuned to each one.
Right, exactly.
That's a pretty complex lift.
Yeah,
and it does a pretty good job in a pretty simple way.
100%. And so if you're a person who's going through scary transitions or going through a big transition or change in your life, that's when you need a massive acceleration tool. That's when you need, it's like, because you don't usually get endless amounts of time to think about it.
Yeah.
You get a small amount of time to really understand, okay, what just happened? Why did it happen to me? How did I play a part of it? What did I outsource to other people? What do I know about myself now? And how can I use all of that information to create a better path for myself going forward? Like, how do I not make a lateral move? And that was when I went through my transition, that was the number one question I asked myself. How do I not make a lateral move? Because I do not want this to be an inevitable conclusion to the next phase of my life. And so lateral move.
What would that have looked like for you? Well, you're in a religious paradigm. Mm-hmm. Your entire world's baked in. You would have left that cult and joined another cult? Was that what you mean by lateral move? Or you become an activist against the original cult? That would be a lateral move? Because you're still tuned to the energy of it?
Correct. Yeah. Like if I had become somebody who just talked, was salty about my religion, I felt like that would have been a lateral move. But yeah, and it wouldn't have even had to have been like what the world thinks is a cult. It could have just been another paradigm that's off the shelf.
Sure.
Like had I suddenly become a political activist for
a certain cause,
or just like aligned myself with a political party.
I see a lot of people from my faith background doing that.
Yeah, and felt like it was like I had to believe everything. I had to stand for that political party's beliefs, no matter what they were.
I've seen people, they kind of just find the political party that's the most opposite of what they believed, and then get involved, and then kind of buy that hook, line, and sinker like did the original thing. I'm like, correct. So that's a lateral move is what we're talking about.
Or just any religion, any paradigm.
Are we saying there's something absolutely wrong with this, or you're just saying that's not moving forward in life and developing your, like what's the problem with that lateral move? Like maybe it's a better cult to be a part of. It's a more open cult than the one you came from. So what's the problem with it? I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm saying I didn't want to do it. Gotcha. Right. Like I wasn't going to make a lateral move. You want a vertical move.
Yeah, because I knew that I knew what the original paradigm asked of me, which was to be super thoughtful about some things and then fudge others. Mm-hmm. Like anytime the paradigm didn't get like it was not particularly logically consistent, or if it didn't make sense, or it's like all of that stuff, just fudge that, like the Photoshop blur tool, just blur that part, just focus on the things that really make sense. And it was the stuff that I had to ignore, the stuff that was the blur tool stuff. That was the stuff that got me, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that again. I'm never going to enter something that asks me to hyper focus on all the reasonable stuff and then just all the irrational, unreasonable stuff just kind of go, well, that's just part of it, right? Like, like in order to stay loyal to the paradigm or in order to stay loyal to the people in the paradigm, I just have to like buy all this other stuff too.
That's why I stopped watching Star Wars.
Yeah. Right.
I had to blur too many things. I'm like,
All right, there's more movies than 3? I thought there was just the 3. So, yeah. And so like, to me, that's a lateral move because I don't know how that other stuff is going to get me. I don't know what I'm saying yes to. And so, I'm just not I'm not just going to buy a premise. I'm not going to just like agree that something is the way, like the building block of my brain, without it all making sense to me.
Now, nobody thinks this way, though. Everybody believes it makes sense to them and will report it back to themselves as, no, this is a very logical choice to go from this thing over to this lateral move. Like, a lateral move is going to make complete and total sense to somebody because they want it to make sense to them. So it's not like they're going to be, oh, this is a lot, like, not thinking the way you're thinking. So a lot of people aren't aware this is happening, first of all.
They're not. And that's fine.
And it's still a transition, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It's not a transition vertically. It's still, but we didn't say vertical transitions. We just said transition. And you're saying, I think in the subtext of what you're saying, you believe, a belief you carry is that vertical transitions are better than horizontal transitions. That's a premise you're operating from.
It's, for me, it was.
Yeah. I also believe that, but I just want to make sure that's what we're saying.
I do think that if a person if they can afford the mental bandwidth to be thoughtful about every opinion or belief in their brain, right? And so it's just like, it basically, if I haven't done sufficient amount of thinking about something, I hold it very loosely.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I don't know. Right. Like I have to make sure that I repeat it to myself. I don't know this, but ... Right. This is what it kind of, I haven't done sufficient amounts of brain, I haven't poured sufficient amounts of thought into this to be able to come to a conclusion that I feel very certain about. But like kind of like playing around with the concept or ideas or whatever, this is sort of what makes sense to me at this time. I'll be real hedgy on anything I haven't poured lots of bandwidth into. But I think if a person can afford to pour sufficient bandwidth into every opinion and thought that they have, I think that they should do it. Now, not everybody can do that. I mean, I just have to acknowledge, like, not everybody has the time, circumstances, or frankly, the inclination to go through every single thought that they have and go, does this one make empirical sense to me? Does this one make empirical sense to me? Most people are approximators. Yeah. They go, like, does this sound right? Right? Yeah. Does this kind of like when I hear this message or when I hear this opinion given in this way, does it make me feel good? Does it feel right to me? Right? Like, does it kind of align with my values, or is everybody in my life, like, does it align with my community and my tribe, or does it get the job done? Like all the other judging functions. Basically, it's like, does it kind of satisfy my preferred judging functions? And it's like, if the answer is yes, then it's like, well, I can't tell those people they're doing it wrong because they're observing their preferred functions. But for me, it's like, I just will never do that again. Yeah. I will just never do that. And so every transition that I have, I like to see it coming because I like to do sufficient preparation for what is something that I'm at a certain point is going to be unsustainable for me. So I need to make the changes now that I have to make in order to not have it be a big explosion. Yeah. And I'll tell you one, the podcast. I started seeing the end of the road or the end of the line with a podcast for me. I started seeing it about a year and a half ago. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get past 10 years. I could just feel it inside of me. I was like, I'll give you 10 years or 500 episodes, Joel, but I just do not feel like this thing is going to be a forever thing for me. I can feel it. And then I went too long, right? I continued doing it into the 6th year or the 600th episode. And what is that, like 11 and a half years or something, right? So I pushed myself further. And I remember, we had a bunch of conversations around it. I'm like, I cannot do the podcast the way we've been doing it.
You mean fights?
Yeah.
Use the word conversation loosely. Let's put air quotes around conversations.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it. Yeah, just like
arguments.
Yeah, and
disagreements
and sobbing and tears and like, why do I have to, and all of that. And then I saw that one coming, and then I feel like I did a lot of like, hey, I'm not going to be able to keep going. I'm not going to be able to do it. I felt a lot of that, and I felt like I communicated it. And then at a certain point, I was just like, yeah, if we're going to do the podcast, it's going to have to look totally different.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm like, I honestly, I just spitball.
Yeah.
The only way that the podcast is sustainable for me at this point is if I just get up to the microphone and I don't give two craps about who's listening to it. I'm just spitballing. I'm just saying whatever's coming to my head.
That's how we started. So
yeah, that's how it originated.
So let me just review here so far. And I'd love to hear where you are in this conversation, what's coming up for you so far about transitions. If you could leave a comment or even a question about some of the things we're saying in the comments below this video or below this post, we'd really appreciate a conversation starting around this. I think that's going to help build community and bring the humanity back into the content we're producing here. So come make a comment if you can over at personalitycare.com or on a YouTube video or whatever. So the review is transitions are uncertain, the uncertainty in front of us. They're not sustainable, but neither is what we're doing. You even said that, like the current podcast wasn't sustainable. So you had to do, it's not sustainable to do all the heavy lift to make changes to the podcast, for example. Like once we do that, we couldn't make changes every week, for example. We have to like make big changes and then settle it down like a house move or something. Right. So it's not sustainable to constantly be changing. But there's a moment of change. The third thing is the ballast can be the self, and using the self to help us. For example, for you, you're like, I'm more comfortable spitballing. Well, you're a perceiver. You have ENTP preferences. You can channel through your extrovert intuition or your exploration. So it makes sense for us to put it more on the terms that would match your personality. So it's not so much friction. We're ergonomically trying to design the podcast around how you operate and how I operate too.
Correct.
Right? Because I have some challenges here too. It's not always fun for me to have to record every single week. It can get grueling sometimes.
Yeah.
But I've got a different energy system running and I've got my own concerns and things I got to mitigate.
Right.
The fourth thing then is we talked about this idea of transitions can be horizontal, but often meaningful transitions are vertical. Mm-hmm. But that means you sometimes have to, especially if it's not a transition like we talked about the early moments where it's on the timeline that's expected, it's either not on that timeline during those times because it's just an anomaly, or it's post time. Like you're already married, you're 40, you've already chosen your career, your partner, you've already had your first date and your first job and your first, all the things. Now the territory in front of you is a little less certain, like it's less certain, it's not sustainable. You're gonna have to use yourself as a ballast, and you're probably gonna have to invent the transition for yourself. Mm-hmm. When I say invent it, I don't mean like literally something brand new. But for you specifically, you may have to be creative in how you transition because otherwise you're going to be buying a template by definition. Mm-hmm. If it's already been figured out by somebody else, you're buying somebody else's transition. But it's truly unique to you. You might have to create it for yourself. Yeah. We have several clients that have done this. We have several profiler training students have come in and they're like, I want to do profiling, but where do I get a job doing profiling? There hasn't been there's no job offerings that like, I wish there were. We'd do better at our trainings because a lot of people would want to come and get it to get a job. There's not like Microsoft isn't hiring personality profilers, right? Fortune 500 companies aren't hiring them. So often people have to be creative to this transition they're making to a new career. They have to be creative in how they do it. They usually pair it with therapy or coaching, consulting, have a different, like they package it in different ways. Sometimes they go into businesses and do it. Sometimes they do it with individuals. It just depends. Right. Career counseling, et cetera. Right. Couples counseling. I know Brian's been doing that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the fourth thing about transitions is if you're a person that's listening to this podcast, especially if you're a regular listener, you're not going to probably be satisfied with just an average transition that you could buy off the shelf, let's say, right? You're a 45-year-old and maybe you're in a bad relationship and you need to transition out of your relationship. There's a ton of material out there that's going to tell you how to do this. And you can certainly access that material. Like, how do I get out of a relationship? How do I divorce well or end a relationship well and move on to the next stage? There's some material there, but again, all of that is going to be templated. You might need to do it differently than other people. And I believe that your personality type can be a ballast for it. I believe the map you can create using type, using cognitive functions, can be a ballast for any transition you need to face, even if it's one that no one else on the planet has ever transitioned into before. I
would actually say if we're talking about the distinction between vertical and horizontal, I would say that is the definition of a vertical transition.
There's no template.
Is that there's no template. It's bespoke to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we did, you and me. It was really freaking hard.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's just massively difficult to do that.
It is.
Horizontal transitions are almost inevitable unless you go, wait, like you said, I'm not doing that. Put your foot down.
Right.
Now you have a job to go in and, not, I wouldn't say invent, that's the wrong way to say it, but be creative on what you're transitioning in vertical ways to.
Yeah. And I know you don't want me to hyper focus on relationships. It's just the
I don't care.
easiest one that,
No, please.
it's the one that I think is the most relatable to people. But
Are you planning a transition, Antonia? Is that why you keep, should I know something in advance?
do you think I am? Is that why you're uncomfortable with the
This
topic?
is like, wait a second here. Like, I'm going to bring it back to the transitions we all need to make in our relationships, Joel.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean?
Leaving your long-haired hippie husband. No, the relationship piece is a horizontal move is getting out of one relationship and immediately entering another one.
Like a rebound. Everybody knows a rebound relationship.
That's exactly it. A rebound is a horizontal move.
Yes.
Right. And so it's like, well, what's a vertical move then?
That's great you brought that up.
Yeah.
That's
a vertical move is like I'm by myself for a while. I'm figuring myself out.
Yes.
I understand who I am and what needs were going unmet in the previous relationship.
Yep.
And I'm also figuring out like all the stuff I brought to it, right? All the baggage I brought and all the things that I need to be working on so I don't just replicate that.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows if you rebound, you're just bringing your problems to the next relationship. And so that's a horizontal move. And the same thing with a career. Oh, I hate my job. Okay, so now I just have to find another job. And so you go from this one to the next one, and it's like, oh, this job sucks too. Right? And so you just keep doing that. And those are all horizontal moves. A vertical move is going like, okay, so what is my vocation? What is the thing that I feel like I bring to the world? And it's not to say that I disagree with this idea of like needing to find your passion, right? Otherwise, you're not happy in your career. I feel like we don't necessarily... I don't think the people who are happiest in their careers are the ones that are doing exactly what they love to do and have always known it, because I don't think everybody knows that about themselves. I think the people who are the most satisfied in their careers are the ones who are who feel a sense of purpose every day, whether or not it's passion. Right? They go, they help others. They feel contributive. Yeah, they're contributive. Their life force is meaningful. Yeah. Right? Like the energy they're expending into their day.
What I do matters.
Feels like it matters. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Even if it's not their favorite thing.
I think that's been true for me too. Mm-hmm. Even jobs I didn't really like, if I knew my work genuinely mattered to what I was doing, it actually felt better.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think if we just go like, I hate this job because it requires details and I don't like details, so I'm going to go jump over to this job that doesn't require any details, but now maybe it requires me to be more social than I want to be or whatever, or less social, it's isolating. That's a lateral move, right? You went from one situation that you didn't like to another situation you didn't like. So by definition, a vertical move or a vertical transition means that you're just not going to do that. You're not going to just take the next thing. You are going to use an understanding of self in order to make a better, like basically you're now on a path, right? It's recalibrating a trajectory, right? A lateral move that just brings the same problems. You're not on a path, right? You're just bringing whatever wasn't great about this, you're just bringing it with you everywhere you go. But you're still stuck, right? You're still not on a path. Like the path still is sort of a big cement wall. Yeah. If you make a vertical move, right? Or if you go forward, now you've gotten over that wall. Now you've gotten over whatever was the thing that you ran into. And now you can like create a new life path for yourself. But I think it does require a lot of self-awareness. And you have to know, like, because not everything in templates. I mean, we talked so much crap about templates in the early days. I remember back in like, when we first started, it was like, are you living a templatized life? And you shouldn't be living a templatized life. And I was like,
I totally don't feel the same way now as much.
I do not at all. Like I go back and listen to that. I'm like, oh, you sweet summer child. It's like, there are some parts of a template that are absolutely like, there's a reason that's the template. Yes. Right. That is dialed in, and it is good to be dialed in that way if it suits you. But you got to figure that piece out. It's like, what part of the template wasn't right for me and what part is? So it requires more discretion. It requires us to know ourselves better to go, like actually, I mean, like I would have never thought I was like the template of having children suited me until I had a child. And I still struggle. I honestly do. I'm not as much of a natural Mother as like I see, like I think feelers have an edge.
Yeah.
I think sensor feelers have the biggest edge in raising children. As an intuitive thinker type, I don't have an edge in raising children. And so like it's always a struggle. It's always a challenge. And yet I'm so glad that I decided to roll this template out. Does that make sense? I'm so glad that I decided to take this track because it was a good one, and I would have missed out had I not done it. So there's like parts of the template that are right for us, but we've got to figure that out. We've got to figure out what parts of the template are right for us and what parts are not. And the parts that are not are the parts that are usually the thing that's like, I just can't do this one more day. Not even one more day can I do this. And so, so making transitions in your life requires a level of self, in order to do it well, in order to not just get yourself out of the pot and into the flame, it requires a level of self-understanding that I think, to go back to the original, topic that we're always supposed to talk about personality types, which is great because personality types is a fascination of mine and always will be. So it's okay to, bring it in.
Well, it's the basis of all life. I mean, if like the map of who I am, I have to be with myself my whole life. So it's the basis of everything, really.
Yeah.
It's everything I want to do is based on how I am and who I am.
Yeah, exactly. Because as far as my perspective is concerned, I am the center of the universe since everything surrounds me. Right?
Fair. The little blue dot on my GPS map tells me that. Yeah, I'm the little blue dot. Tells me I'm the center of everything.
Right. Well,
the whole world organizes around me.
That's right. I look 360 and the entire universe is surrounding me. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm at the center.
It reorientates itself.
That's right. Constantly and perpetually. And so this point of origin is an incredibly important, it's really important to have this piece of information about like what's going on in the point of origin as I'm pivoting and looking around at my 360 view as the center of the universe at all times. What's going on at the center, and what direction do I need to be walking based on that understanding of self? When we go through these scary transitions, recognizing that. And I think the reason why we talked about everything we talked about at the beginning is because it's like, well, it's going to be happening.
Yeah.
Like something's like a shoe's going to drop. If you don't make the transition you need to be making, you might just fall.
Well, transitions are inevitable.
Yeah.
We can either be more conscious and aware of them and in control of them or influencing them or not.
That's right. And when we don't take an assessment, when we don't sit with ourselves, if we're about to go into one or if we're in the middle of one or we're wrapping one up.
Yeah.
Wherever we're at in the phases, if we don't take an assessment of self, we really actually are going into an uncertain and unknown, even if it feels more familiar, even if it feels like really similar to what we did before. Yeah. We're entering a place that just might be actually worse for us. And so an understanding of self keeps it mitigates that.
Yes.
It gives us more to work with. It arms us with better information so that as we're going to the next vine, we know it's not just grabbing the vines, it's also knowing what direction to go. Like, this is the direction in the jungle I should be swinging.
Well, it makes me think of a fifth thing. So we've got the uncertainty of transitions, the unsustainability of them, the tuning into the self as the ballast through them. What was the fourth thing I said? It was... Can't remember it now off the top of my head. I was hoping you could remember it because I'm trying to build a little heuristic here as we talk. I can't remember it.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
But the fifth thing is it's a skill. It's learnable, and vertical move. That was the fourth thing.
Fourth thing was vertical.
It's always a vertical move. The fifth thing is it can be learned.
Yes.
It's a method and a skill.
Correct.
That if you go through a transition with full awareness of who you are and the territory of life, now you know how to do transitions.
Yes, we can get better at them.
So it's something that you can actually improve upon across all 8 domains of life, no matter who you are. But the challenge is it's not the same learnable method or skill for every person, meaning that you can learn how to navigate transitions, but everybody does it just a little bit different. So again, this is where personality type comes in as a ballast, is to say how I do transitions is going to be different than even how other ENFPs do transitions, but there's going to be a pattern to it. Like we're going to start to see a pattern to how ENFPs approach transitions. Certain blind spots, certain shadow material, certain things that we're going to be good at, certain things we're going to be overconfident in, certain things that we're going to showboat and try to prove ourselves around. We got to watch for certain parts of our own inner wisdom we're not going to listen to and tune out, right? I know this about myself and other ENFPs.
Things that kept us stuck before.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reasons why we
Yes.
maybe stayed in a bad situation longer than we should have.
Yeah,
Or
all of
why
this.
it was a bad situation to begin with for us.
All of this. But the skill and the method will only emerge through the process of doing a transition.
Right.
So this is the catch-22 here, is that I can only learn how to do transitions by doing a transition, and I'm scared to until I know how to do it. So we need to get on this. This is often what the work we end up doing with clients and students.
Yes.
Is we come in and we say, listen, we don't know exactly all the material of your life. We know the pattern of your personality, and we know the pattern of the challenges you will have on the terrain of life based on your personality. Mm-hmm. And we know the broad categories of transitions that most people want to make, usually by their 30s. Mm-hmm. This is where our clients usually start to come toward us.
Yeah.
And we say, here's how we can help support you in discovering your own heuristic, your own mapping system, your own way of looking at this. And we start with an audit. Mm-hmm. And that, like our personal life path, it's one of the best programs for this. We go through all of the 8 cognitive functions, your personality type tuned to each of those areas and domains of life, one each week leading up to a live event where we unpack it and put a life plan together. Mm-hmm. I think that's really powerful. But even things like just taking your vital signs, just getting a quick diagnostic of where you're at in those 8 areas, not going through the whole program, just a quick snapshot of, oh my gosh, look at my deficiency in, let's just say, sensation, extroverted sensing. Like I've got no extroverted sensing or sensation represented in my life. No wonder I've got low energy, somebody might say, or I can't seem to, have the gumption to get up or do something, or I can't take direct action, or I said life is just blah, boring or whatever.
Don't learn by doing.
Yeah, I don't learn by doing or whatever.
And so I think that I have to figure everything out before I start taking action.
Exactly.
That's one of the big ones for that one. And to your point, transitioning is a skill. You can learn it over time. You can build it, but it is a learn by doing situation.
Yes.
Absolutely. So you have to basically get into action.
Yeah. So I think I'm not trying to promote it. I'm just going to talk about our personal life path program because it literally does this for people.
Oh, I think you should totally try to promote it because it is an absolutely fantastic program that everybody should be a part of.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm not going to go into a commercial around it. I'm just going to, again, illustrate the fact that if you want to do something like this, you could also go do this on your own. Spend some time auditing your life, going through each of the 8 domains, and you can use the Jungian cognitive functions to do this. Find a set of activities or exercises and tune into each one of the cognitive functions for a period of time. Mm-hmm. We do it for a week in the PLP, the personality life path. And the reason I'm saying this and giving this to you listening or watching right now is we have a limited number in our life path. We can't literally take everybody in the world. So especially if this podcast is listened to a lot of people, not everyone could do what I'm saying. So if you can't join PLP, I'm giving you the recipe here. Go tune in for a period of time to each one of these Jungian cognitive functions. The goal here is to figure out what your relationship is to it. Mm-hmm. Find out what your relationship is to this domain area of life. How do you show up when you're in this area? So for extroverted sensing sensation, I would recommend a lot of sensory-based physical. We have a list in our PLP where we have 25 activities.
Usually 15 to 20 activities that can be chosen.
And depending on your
one of them,
personality types that have this higher up as a strength, we will encourage them to pick something more sophisticated off that list.
Yeah, one of the harder ones. And if you have it really low, then you can pick one of the more manageable ones.
Yeah. And as an example, I mean, this is just, for this one, I'm not going to go through all 8 of them, but just as an example for extrovert sensing, one thing I encourage people, especially if they're not familiar with extrovert sensing, is not higher up in their cognitive functions. I say this week, every day for 15 or 30 minutes, do one activity in slow motion. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds like a silly activity, but this is going to test your relationship to this cognitive function, this energy in your life, right? You make a sandwich in slow motion and you're having to pay attention to sensory details way more than you did before. No matter what your personality type is, it's going to attune you to those sensory details as you make that sandwich. And you're going to notice things you didn't notice before. You're going to be very present with the experience by doing that. And that's just one of the activities. I don't know if that's on the list. I think I just always mention it.
You always mention
it's not even on one of the.
Yeah.
But it's like an experience where you can see, okay, that's my relationship to extrovert sensing sensation. And there's one and multiples of these for all the cognitive functions. Mm-hmm. And when you do this and you get a sense, because you have your own personality map, now you get a sense of your personality map in relation to the terrain that you're traveling and you have to go through.
Yeah.
This is powerful skill you're developing, a powerful framework, methodology, and skill.
Yeah.
I would really encourage you to go do this audit for yourself.
Well, and in the program, we always say, watch for resistance.
Yes.
It's like what your relationship is to the function will be shown in your resistance to the exercises.
And the counterintuitive resistance is like a malaise or a like a diffusion. I always tell the students and clients to say,
I was confused.
Yeah, watch for like, I didn't know what that meant. Like your mind will use confusion, obfuscation, even more than direct resistance.
Correct.
It's really sneaky about that. So that's something like but that's your relationship to it. Like I seem to get confused or I started to avoid that area. Well, that's good to know about yourself. And then what would be interesting is based on your personality. By the way, a lot of people in PLP sometimes reprofile themselves or retype themselves because they realize, wait, I thought I was a different type. And now going through this audit, I realize I'm not the type I thought I was.
Yeah.
This is way easier for me. This is way harder.
Yeah.
I must have them backwards or something.
Yeah.
So that's also powerful.
Yeah.
The point is that I think that if you did this full audit, you'd get a lot for any transition you want to do in life. A full audit of your relationship to these 8 domains is key. I think you'll learn a lot on how to make transitions in general.
Yeah. But come to PLP anyway, because
well, I want you to sign up for PLP.
There's community support, and then there's also an ability to personalize it to your life.
Yeah.
And so the program itself, don't be weird. I'm just gonna talk it up because I love it.
Oh, I'm not being weird at all.
Right.
I want to make we're genuinely recording these for, we don't know who will listen or what context they're in, and we don't even know what timeline it might be.
Right.
Taken in.
Right. What if
I might
somebody's
be long
listening
dead
to
50 years from
Yeah.
now?
What
Who
if
knows?
somebody's listening to this in like 30 years and PLP is not even a thing anymore?
So we want to make sure we add value and we give the recipe of what to do no matter what.
Yep.
I think you're crazy if you go try to do this on your own, because you're not going to know what to do on all 8 channels, especially the ones you're uncertain of. But you could do it.
You could try.
But I'm saying it's possible. You could read books. You could go through our material. But if you want to do it in 8 weeks with a live event, and we're actually going to give you a systems map, we're going to help you develop a systems map in a very short time. And we know not only have we walked this walk ourselves, but we've walked class after class after class through this process. So yes, I'll talk it up, Antonia. Come over and check out Personality Life Path Mentorship. I think it's going to be one of the most powerful programs you've ever done in your entire life. People say it's a life-changing program. Sometimes we call it our shadow program, or shadow work program. I don't think that's its complete sense. We call it our life audit program. It's not complete. A life focus, life planning. It's not anything we could label it. It's not complete.
I will say that it's better if you are in a transition time period, and it's better if you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Like I think the people who have the hardest time are the ones who
premature.
Yeah, they come a little. They take it a little earlier than their ego is willing to make changes. Because the more you're willing to, the more open you are to change, the more open you are to reevaluating like things that you might even be kind of emotionally attached to. The more open you are to that, the more powerful it's going to be. Because it's like chiropractic for the soul. And if you're all tense, like if you've ever gone to a chiropractor and your muscles are all tense, it doesn't work as well. So you kind of have to be in a little bit more of like a less defensive place. Yeah. So if you're defensive, if you're defending the things in your life, then it's not gonna have as much power. I think it's still helpful no matter who you are. But the people who have like the most profound experiences are the ones who are like, yep, I'm at cut 990 and I don't want 10 more. I don't want to bleed out. So if you're in a big transition in your life, it's incredibly helpful to help calibrate. Well, the whole point is to create a new life path. That's why we call it Personality Life Path.
Yeah, with intention and a systems map behind it.
Yep. All
right. So if you've been listening along, thanks for making comments as we've been talking through this podcast. Any other last minute things you want to say before we wrap up, Antonia? Because I think we should kind of tie this together here.
No, I mean, unfortunately, like I told you, the only way I can do the podcast is if I'm just mostly spitballing. So unfortunately, I'm not doing that thing where I'm like keeping the list of everything and tying it up in a nice little package at the end.
I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to. I think I want to be really real and human, so I don't think that matters.
Yeah. In order to show up every week, I'm going to have to be able to be a little bit more sort of chill vibe.
And at some point, you'll just stop talking about the struggle of showing up every week too, right? It'll just be a thing you do now.
Yeah, it's still.
I know you're still kind of like.
I'm still in transition. Yes. Actually, I think I'm like probably 3/4 of the way through the transition of like the old way of doing things and the new way. Yeah. Yes. Eventually, at some point, I will stop talking about how this is a big transition moment for me in the podcast, and I think I'm almost there.
I didn't mean to be critical. It's totally fine to talk about all that.
Didn't you though?
So you've been listening along, or what? Didn't you though? No, I wasn't. Honestly, I wasn't trying to be critical. This was good. Come over to personalityco.com. we'd love to have a comment left by you if you're listening or watching.
Yeah.
Because we like you. We're glad you're here, and we're glad you're listening and you're part of this conversation, but you're this third person that's been here with us. The two of us have had microphones. You haven't had a microphone, but we'd love to hear from you. So come over to personalityhacker.com directly below this episode. Love to hear some of maybe the transitions that you've been afraid of or that you faced, like I asked earlier, but also the one I asked you in the mid part is, what transition are you facing in front of you? I want to reiterate that. Mm-hmm. What transition is staring you in the face right now? Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't know it fully, but you have a sense of it. You can kind of start getting it in the fog. You're like, oh, I think that's coming for me.
Yeah, your inner wisdom's like, there's a clock on the wall and it's counting down.
Like, I know my big transition is my kids are all going to be teenagers and grown very soon. Mm-hmm. And I'm like contending with that coming for me. I know that it's going to be a lot of grief and I got to contend with it. I just know I've got about 5 years still, 6 years, but it's already started because my two boys are older. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is happening. This transition, it's happening to me. And I think I want to be more proactive. So what transition are you facing right now that you're kind of like, I wish this wasn't happening, or I'm a little nervous, or maybe you're a little excited. Maybe you're maybe you're going to graduate soon and get your first job or something, and it's a little exciting. That's also, you could be facing a transition that's positive too.
I'm experiencing the transition of no longer seeing myself as a young person. Like, I'm realizing, I'm like, oh, I still think of myself as young, but nobody else does.
Yeah.
And after this wedding this weekend, where I like hopped to help out and ran from thing to thing, and like every morning I woke up and my legs were just screaming at me, and I'm like, I guess if I didn't realize my age, my legs are going to let me know. Yeah. It's like, you're going to have to do some yoga, okay? You're going to have to pop an ibuprofen just to make it through the day. I'm like, oh. All right, I guess that's a transition.
The dentist told me something like the last time he's like, oh, well, you're old enough now, you don't have to worry about that. I'm like, something around like getting your like wisdom teeth pulled or something. He's like, well, I mean, now you're at an age where, I'm like, what's that supposed to mean? What? Like,
I no longer have to care about.
It was weird, but I know what you mean by getting older.
Aesthetic things.
I can't remember the exact thing he said. I'll have to remember to say it on another episode. Yeah. If you want to learn more about Personality Life Path, head over to personalityhacker.com/lifepath. If we're in the middle of an enrollment, we'd love to have you enroll and be part of this next cohort that we're forming. It's a really powerful program.
Take it.
And again, go over to personalityhacker.com. We'd love to see you there as well.
Like Brian Regan says, why would instantly improved vision not be at the top of your list? Well, why would an instantly improved life path not be at the top of your list?
Well, yeah, I think it is on top of everybody's list. They just got to get to that list item first. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And we'll talk with you on the next Personality Hacker Podcast.